to the Reef and Seashores systems of Lakshadweep. The visit is the part of the paper Principles of Ecology of the undergraduate course. Following our holy mission to worship Goddess Saraswati, before starting any good work, I invite you all, since today is the auspicious day of Saraswati Puja also, so I invite all to invoke the blessings of Ma Saraswati, the goddess of knowledge and wisdom, to install the true purpose of life in our minds and remove all obstacles in achieving it. Please play the Saraswati Vandana.
सरस्वती महाभद्र महामाया वरप्रदा श्रीप्रदा पद्मनिलया पद्माक्षी पद्मवक्रका शिवानुजा पुस्तकात्रे ज्ञानमुद्रा रमापरा कामरूपा महाविद्या महापातकनाशिनी महाशया मालिनी च महाभागा महाभुज महाभागा महोत्साह दिव्यांगा सुरवंदिता महाकाली महापाश महाकारा महंकुश गीता च विमला विश्व विद्युन्माला च वैष्णवी शतनाम स्तोत्रम संपूर्णम ओम शांति शांति शांति।
Thank you, Soham. That was a beautiful tribute to Ma Saraswati, created by our own students, Harmeet Singh and Ankan Haldar. As the Earth's life-sustaining body, the health of our ocean is vital to ensure the survival of all the species on the Earth. Coral reefs, one of the most biologically diverse and valuable ecosystem, make up just a fraction of the ocean, that is 1%, but they provide a home to around 25% of the world's marine life. This fact indicates the significance of today's event. So, first of all, I would like to request respected teacher in charge, ma'am, Department of Zoology, Dr. Manisha Singh, ma'am, to give the welcome address.
Thank you, Sandhya. A very bright morning to all of you. जीवन का यह बसंत आप सबको खुशियां दे अनंत, प्रेम और उत्साह का भर दे जीवन में रंग। आप सभी को बसंत पंचमी की हार्दिक शुभकामनाएं। I, Manisha Sengar, on behalf of Department of Zoology, Deshbandhu College, University of Delhi, take immense pride to welcome our Principal Sir, Professor Rajiv Agarwal, our Vice Principal Sir, Professor Kamal Kumar Gupta, all the respected faculty members from various colleges, dear students, and our very eminent speakers for today's fascinating talk, Mr. Wenzel Pinto and Mr. Kaushik Sarkar. Thank you so much for sparing your time out of your very busy schedule to be here and enlightening all the students and all of us for a very wonderful and a very enriching and a very fascinating talk. Thank you so much. And moreover, actually, your talk today will be of an honor to us because you being our student, you are an alumnus So having getting a transfer of knowledge from you means a lot for us, Kaushik. And especially you have been doing really a lot for us, coming every time whenever we need your guidance and need your support. You're always available. God bless you. And
Thank you.
thank you. And it's more
Sure.
important because as the educational excursions these days have been restrained due to pandemic, so this is all we can offer. This experience we can offer to our students, to see the real time beauty of marine biodiversity of Lakshwadeep. Thank you all, because it's these are the islands of ecological fragility and environmental sensitivity too. So I hope everybody, without taking much of time, I hope everybody will be enjoying the virtual fascinating experience and a very beautiful journey with you all. Thank you so much. Over to you, Dr. Sandhya.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Our respected principal, sir, Professor Rajiv Agrawal, could not join us because of his prior commitments, but his blessings and good wishes are always with us, as he, with his remarkable leadership and illuminating ideas, is the constant motivating force for everyone in the college. Thank you, sir. Now, I would like to invite respected Vice Principal, sir, Deshbandhu College, Professor Kamal Kumar Gupta, sir, who is the senior most faculty of our department and who is the very big smile of our department. Sir, please address the gathering.
Thank you, Dr. Sandhya. May Ma Saraswati bless us all with wisdom and knowledge. At the same time, being a teacher always bless. So, all my blessings to the entire crowd. I feel proud and privileged to welcome the guest, today's guest, eminent speakers, young, who are going to give us a virtual trip to the Lakshadweep, Mr. Wenzel Pinto, Research Assistant, Ocean and Coast Program, Nature Conservation Foundations, and Mr. Kaushik Sarkar, our own Kaushik Sarkar, Executive on-ground projects, the Habitat Trust. Welcome, Wenzel, welcome, Kaushik.
Thank you.
It's really a proud moment for me to welcome our dynamic, versatile, visionary principal, Professor Rajiv Agrawal, who has given a new dimension to the college. And college is really growing in a definite direction. It's not only growing, it's not only moving, it is accelerating. It is shown the path of progress. I welcome the senior faculty members of different colleges of department. I could see Dr. Nijat Sood from the Alsing College and all the senior faculty members in various colleges of zoology department. I welcome all the colleagues, senior and junior colleagues of my own college in different departments. All the participants, my dear students, you are all welcome for this fantastic virtual visit. I like to congratulate. I have my deep appreciation and best wishes to my own department. Dr. Manisha Sengar, teacher in charge, who is a force behind organizing such a wonderful event, who always motivate every one of us in the department to conduct such fantastic events. My appreciation to senior colleagues, Dr. Varsha Babeja, Dr. Sunil Kayast, Dr. Moses Renchui, Dr. Rocky, for taking initiative in all such events. I welcome Dr. Aditya Saxena, IQAC coordinator of our college, a very, very prompt and dynamic person and a backbone for the college, especially the promotions and everything. I welcome Dr. Indira Kumar Singh, DBT Star College coordinator, who is always instrumental and encouraging in hosting the event. My best wishes, my appreciation to the organizing team, conveners, Dr. Moses Renchoy, Dr. Sandhya, and Dr. Amit, a new entry in our family, very, very dynamic, versatile, and promising person in our college. Last but not the least, I welcome all the participants, ladies and gentlemen. It's really a wonderful. COVID pandemics have created massive harm, damage in all spheres of the society. But one thing, if I say, the positive part of all the adversities, this pandemic has opened up the era, the scope of the virtual visits. I remember in the beginning, in the initial time, we used to host the virtual visits of maybe the Okla Biodiversity Park, maybe some of the biodiversity park in Delhi and around. Then it moved to the last visits were in the Madras crocodile form. So from terrestrial, we were moving to the aquatic system. Recently, the botany department had one of that is wetlands. But probably that we can have a visit to Lakshadweep, that was not in my wildest dream that we can ever have. So it is a positive part of the pandemic that we could percolate in the most distant, in one of the most beautiful areas. And we are touching upon some of the things which are very, very difficult to understand. Let me confess, when I was a student of BSc first year, some of the finest teachers used to teach us about the coral reefs. Coral, tak to samajh aa jata tha. I used to place what is coral, but coral reef, I couldn't visualize what coral reef would be. Same would be the story, I believe, with the first year students, that what coral reef would be. So anyway, later I start learning that, oh, coral reef would be there. Then knowing what is atoll, that was even more difficult to understand. So there are some of the concepts to be very, very difficult to understand. But then comes the beauty. Luckily, I got a chance, of course, not to visit the Lakshadweep. Kaushik, I am certainly going to ask this question maybe at the end. How can we plan to visit the Lakshadweep? But I got an opportunity to visit Andaman and Nicobar Islands and also some of the islands in Thailand. And it was just amazing. Probably words cannot describe how beautiful that can be. But wherever the human go, it starts destructing, it starts creating mess. And I think Wenzel and Kaushik also must be doing some problems there, because it's the human nature. Of course, they are conservationists. And luckily, the Lakshadweeps has not been explored so widely, and they're not very popular tourist junction. And of course, there are limitations. You need permit and so many other things are there. So that is good that human beings are not reaching, or if at all we are planning to do, we should have very, very strict guidelines, because as just now Dr. Manisha has said, that is a fragile ecosystem. They are very, very prone for destruction. So a lot of things are there, but yeah, the beauty, the challenge, the concepts, we are all eager to hear from our two young speakers, Mr. Wenzel and Mr. Kaushik. Thank you and welcome again.
Thank you so much,
Thank
sir,
you.
Thank you, sir.
for lots of wisdom. Now, I would like to request Dr. Indira Kumar Singh, Coordinator, DBT Star College Scheme, who never say no to any constructive endeavor. And yes, he inspires us all. IK sir, please address the gathering.
Thank you, Dr. Sandhya, for your kind words and this opportunity. First of all, good morning to one and all. Respected Principal Sir, Vice Principal Sir, our TIC Madam, all the senior faculty members, and my dear friend. When someone who came and who has given you kind of a master blaster side type of a stroke, and then someone ask me to do the batting, it is it's very difficult. Sir has already elaborated nicely and welcome one and all individually. So I don't think I, being as DBT Star College coordinator, I need to repeat it again. So thank you so much, our principals, vice principal sir, and of course, our senior most member, Professor Kamal Gupta, sir. Thank you so much for your elaborate welcome speech and, always kind of inspiration and motivation in our department. Thank you so much, sir. And I must congratulate and convey my best wishes to all the, team member. Of course, when you have planned any of the program, small or big, does not matter, but it needs lots of effort. So indirectly or directly, whosoever is, the part of this program, I must say you have designed a very nice virtual visit. But yes, we know the guest and the speaker, both of them will feel us that we are really in Lakshwadeep. And I could tell you that is one of the best place, probably Kosik is going to give more emphasis, that is the Kavarati, very small island, but the best one. So thank you so much, whole team, coordinator, convener, and each and every member of this team to organize these events and keep doing good work. Thank you so much. Best wishes. And on this auspicious day of Vasant Panchami, I will say, we all should be blessed with by Ma Saraswati to have great knowledge and wisdom. Thank you so much, one and all.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for the words of wisdom. It seems Dr. Aditya Saxena has not come in as yet. So,
I think we should start now because I guess.
Just 1 minute, Kaushik, 1 minute. Just. So now it's time for the virtual field visit, and we are very enthusiastic to visit the Lakshwadeep virtually, especially through the ecologist's eyes and perspective. And I would like to thank Kaushik Sarkar and Wenzel Pinto for taking out time from their busy schedule to enlighten us all. And I would like to request Dr. Amit to introduce our speakers to the audience.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Good morning, everyone. We have two eminent speakers with us, starting with Mr. Wenzel Pinto, who is a marine biologist currently working as a research assistant at the Oceans and Coast Program at the Nature Conservation Foundation. He has a wide range of interests, including the ecology of invasive species, behavioral ecology, and predator defense strategies in marine systems. He has designed and carried out research on the effects of the biotic and the abiotic factors on the functional role of parrotfish in the Lakshadweep archipelago. He is a PADI certified advanced open water diver with over 50 log dives. He has also worked on many research projects, including the behavior of Asiatic wild dogs in Edoba and the Hiri Tiger Reserve. Along with, he has also worked on the diet analysis and the population ecology of the leopards in Sanjay Gandhi National Park. He's also worked on the population ecology and genetic structure of gharial populations in Katarnik Ghat Wildlife Sanctuary. Thank you so much, Mr. Wenzel Pinto, for joining with us. And the second speaker is Mr. Kaushik Sarkar, who is currently working at the position of executive on-ground projects, the Habitat Trust. And it gives me immense pleasure to introduce our brilliant alumnus, who is from National Center for Biological Sciences, Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, CIFR. He is currently working with the Habitat Trust, and he is interested in avian ecology, especially understanding the pattern of occurrence of certain species in relation to the heterogeneous landscape. He's received several grants, including the Raptor Research and Conservation Foundation 2020, for studying on influence of the forest as type on tropical owls. He has also written many popular articles and delivered many talks. So thank you, Mr. Kaushik, for joining us. Thank you, ma'am. The floor is all yours.
Kaushik, please go ahead. Wenzel, please go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Hey, good morning, everyone. It was very nice to be here. Thank you, everyone, for such a beautiful introduction. Uh, Me and Wenzel will try to take you through the whole Lakshadweep Island ecosystems today. And Wenzel and I have been batchmates since our NCBS trips, NCBS course, and we have been worked together at NCF for a while. And then he has been an amazing marine biologist and doing a lot of interesting stuff underwater. So we'll take you to that world today. And let's begin our presentation. And I'll ask Wenzel to take the floor.
Thank
Wenzel,
you,
do you want-
everyone. Thank you, everyone, for this wonderful introduction. So, without further delay, let's start. Kaushik, could you? I would also like to apologize in advance. My network is a little poor, so just in case I get disconnected, or the video and the audio might be a little out of sync. But yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay.
Wenzel is doing this presentation from Lakshadweep, and he has found it's been difficult to find a good network. So just keeping in mind that. And I request everybody to keep their videos and audios off meanwhile, and let's start the presentation. Wenzel, you can start.
Okay, so this is going to be a presentation about the biodiversity and the different ecosystems that Lakshadweep has. And let's get right into it. So where is Lakshadweep? Lakshadweep is a group of coral atoll islands that's located just off the western coast of India, about 400 kilometers or so from Kochi. And there are a total of about 30 to 32 of them, including submerged coral atolls and sandbanks. But only 10 of these coral atolls, islands, are inhabited. But what is an atoll? So coral atolls are, in a way, what remains of long extinct undersea volcanoes. So undersea volcanoes that had been active and that went dormant and then uh, gradually sank underwater to start to grow a coral ring around it. And once the volcano is completely submerged, the ring of coral that grows around it, within that ring, sand collects over the coral reef and forms small islands within this ring. And this is essentially what an atoll is: small islands of sand protected within a ring of coral. And as of 2011, Lakshadweep had a population of about 65,000 people living within just this tiny space of 32 square kilometers. And most of these islands are usually long and thin, like this one shown here, Agatti, and are oriented in a kind of north to south axis. Because of the strong influence that India faces from the southwest monsoon winds, the western sides of these coral rings usually form a large lagoon, while the eastern sides of have small thin bits of land that is usually very close to the eastern. So the main island itself of Lakshadweep is of most of the islands of Lakshadweep is dominated by a single tree, coconut. The Lakshadweep archipelago actually has one of the densest concentrations of coconut trees per unit area of any place in the world. The wildlife on the island, on the main island itself, however, is mostly introduced and from the mainland, And so not much is known about what else you find here, but you get rats, some feral cats, and the common Indian toad. There are a few barn owls that have been introduced, a couple of black-shouldered kites, and you find a few resident shorebirds such as plovers, sandpipers, whimbrels, and gulls. As we go from the island, on either side we have beaches. But since most islands have a lagoon, the western beach, pictured here, is usually a lagoon word beach, while the eastern beach is a seaward beach, which has a very shallow and a short lagoon. Um, because of the influence of the southwest monsoon winds, the beaches also look starkly different. So the western beaches here, like pictured here, are they look really pretty white sand beaches, and they're full of this fine-grained white sand from the lagoons, while the eastern beaches are made mainly of coarse rubble, which is essentially the broken skeletons of coral that have long since died and have been washed ashore. On the beaches, you find several species of crab, such as this red-eye crab or ghost crabs that come out at night. From the beaches, we go on into the lagoon. So the lagoon, as I've mentioned, usually lies to the western side of most islands, and it is a large expanse of shallow coastal water that is covered majorly in sand, and it is enclosed within a ring within the outer reef ring. Most of the lagoons in Lakshadweep are just a couple of meters deep, 3 to 4 meters at the most. And for uh, for this reason, you get this clear blue crystal clear water within the lagoon. Sorry, Kaushik, I can't see the presentation at the moment. Is
Is
it
it?
still playing?
Wait a second. Probably it got disconnected. I'll share again. Wait a second.
Yeah.
Can you see my screen now?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
I'll do it in a presentation mode. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Yes, great. So let us show you a video. Wait a second. Okay.
So the lagoon itself also hosts these large patches of coral, which serve as a refuge or a nursery habitat for fish, like you can see here. Uh,
Wenzel.
so what the corals provide is essentially structure. So that it's mostly just the physical structure that the corals provide that attracts the fish. And
Hello. Hello.
Actually, Kaushik, I was calling just to click
Hello.
on Kaushik.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. Hello. Can you hear?
yeah, I can hear you.
Sandhya ma'am, can you hear us? What happened in between?
Actually, I was just asking you to click this hide thing and this strip will go.
Okay. Oh, this you can see, is it?
No, you just,
Okay.
clear view.
Okay. Okay. Sorry. No worries. Okay. Please let me know whenever if the video stops or something. Just let me know. Okay. Cool. Can you see the screen now?
Cool.
Yes. Please go.
Wenzel, you
Yeah.
can start again. Yeah.
So what the coral actually are providing, that they are attracting so many fish, is mostly just that physical structure. And this structure allows them protection from fast swimming pelagic predators. Uh, and for this reason, even the pillars of the jetty at each island are a great place to go snorkeling and see lots of different kinds of fish. Uh, now, let's go to the outer reef.
Let us take you right inside the reef systems and let's dive in. Wenzel?
Ha, hi, hi. Sorry for that disconnection. But yeah, as you guys have just seen, this outer reef is essentially a ring of coral that serves a key role in protecting the entire island and the coast against incoming waves because the islands are essentially in the middle of the ocean. Also, these reefs, the outer ring reef, is much more diverse than the reefs, the patch reefs that you find inside the lagoons of the earth. Just as with the beaches, the eastern and the western reefs also are very distinct. The western reefs slope very gently as you go deeper, but in comparison, the eastern reefs uh, are flat till about 10 meters and then have a sudden drop off uh, beyond which they go extremely deep. Uh, now, what makes up the reef, though, and what is the main player in these islands is the coral. There are two major orders of coral, uh, Alcyonaceae, which is the soft coral pictured here, and uh, next slide. Here, this is another soft coral. These soft corals do not have a hard exoskeleton, so they do not secrete calcium carbonate. Unlike the second order of coral, which are scleractinia or the hard corals. These corals, although they may look more like plants, they are actually animals. They and the entire coral is made up of a colony of individual coral polyps, which you can see as those small rings in the picture. Each of them is an individual animal from the phylum Cnidaria, and they secrete calcium carbonate to form a hard uh, physical exoskeleton. So each one of these individual animals settles down on a patch of bare reef substrate and then starts to divide and clone itself till it forms these coral boulders or coral fins. They are also symbiotic animals. They form associations with unicellular algae called zooxanthellae. And these algae are actually what give them their color. Without the algae, they turn white. And it is this this coral is the main player in the Lakshadweep. It is the coral that secretes calcium carbonate that forms the base on which more coral can grow. It is the coral which provides structure and protection to support a thriving reef fish ecosystem, as you can see here. And it is the coral whose dead exoskeleton is eroded into sand, which forms the same islands and within the uh, atoll and makes it habitable. Most corals start off as a thin crust, as a thin film over the substrate. And some will stay like that for the rest of their lives. But many others take up various growth forms. For example, we have a table coral or a tabular shaped coral, or they could be folios or leaf like. They could be arborescent or tree like. They could be boulder shaped or what is called massive. And they could also be fungi like. Most species, though, do not stick to one growth form. Depending on the environmental conditions after settlement, and maybe even on the genes of that particular colony, a single species could take on, it could either be folios, or it could be tabular, or it could be boulder shaped as well. And it could take on any one of these multiple types of growth forms. These growth forms actually vary a lot in terms of how much calcium carbonate they gather, how dense they are, how fragile they are, and what types of microhabitats they can provide. For example, branching forms provide more structure in the form of nooks and crannies where other species can hide, such as for these juvenile damsel fish. But these coral are also usually more fragile and are more susceptible to bleaching than the boulder corals or the massive coral. Boulder coral don't provide as much structural complexity as these branching types, but they are more resistant to breaking or bleaching. Uh, as I've just mentioned, several branching coral provide great habitat, but there is some branching coral species uh, provide such great habitat that they have formed obligate associations with several other species of crustaceans and fish. And in none other can you see this association more clearly than with the coral Pocillopora. This coral is very characteristic and easily identifiable because of the numerous bumps uh, on the coral, and because of this pattern of the coral, all the animals associated with it also usually have spots and or bumps, like you can see on this crab or on this hawkfish, which is spotted as well, or a freckled hawkfish sitting atop Pocillopora. Uh, there's a shrimp and another species of obligate associate crab. And
wait a second.
Next slide.
Yeah.
And this is a species of yellow spotted scorpion fish. All of these species that you find within the Pocillopora, you can find nowhere else because they have to be associated with this particular coral. So if the coral disappears, then all of these species will disappear as well. Along with providing habitat to fish and crustaceans, though, some coral even make space for small sea anemones to grow within them, as you can see here. Sea anemones are from the same phylum as coral, but they don't secrete a hard exoskeleton, and they don't form a symbiotic relationship with algae either. But if you guys have seen Finding Nemo, then anemones are uh, the is the habitat that Nemo lives in. Coral also face a lot of threats, both and natural and man-made. Within the natural variety, coral face constant competition within for space with algae, as you can see here, and even with other coral. In next slide.
Can you see this image?
Yeah. So they compete with each other for space on the reef substrate. They are also often attacked by these organisms that drill into them, such as polychaete worms. And as you can see here, these are Christmas tree worms. They're called so because of their shape. And it's also cool to see actually that even these holes that are created by these invertebrates are sometimes used as shelter by some fish. And this just goes to show how interconnected this whole system is. Coral are also susceptible to diseases such as pink spot. Uh,
Wait
in
a
the
second.
next slide.
Yeah.
And this is a disease that spread to the coral porrites and is spread by a butterfly fish vector. But the largest and most looming threat that they face is climate change. Coral cannot tolerate long periods of prolonged heat stress. And when the water becomes too warm for too long, under such conditions, coral will expel their zooxanthellae. And because the zooxanthellae is what gives them color, they'll turn white. At this point, the coral can survive for a while, but within a few months, if they don't get their zooxanthellae back, they die. And so when the water gets warm for too long, as is happening more and more frequently due to climate change, a mass bleaching event can occur, where coral all across the reef start bleaching and dying. And the mass bleaching event in 1998 was particularly catastrophic for Lakshadweep, where Lakshadweep lost over 90% of its coral cover. From coral, though, let's move on to the fish diversity of Lakshadweep.
Wenzel, I'll be back in a minute. You can continue with this. Okay. Just for a minute, I'll be back. You can keep speaking.
Yeah. Lakshadweep has a very large and diverse assemblage of fish. The clear blue waters and there's not as much sediment in the water, which makes the water very clear. And it lets you see much further than you would in almost any other reef in India, much better visibility than you would get in, say, for example, the Andaman or the Gulf of Mannar. And this lets you see a lot more fishes there. Now to look at, there are several different types of fish. And in my opinion, the easiest way to go through them would be to go up the food pyramid. So at the bottom rung would be the planktivores. So these are fish that feed mostly on plankton, and they do so by filtering water and eating the unicellular plankton, that zooplankton and phytoplankton that live in the water. Fusiliers, anthias, and unicorn fish are all examples of planktivores, and pictured here are anthias. Then come the herbivores. The pictured here are surgeonfish, but even rabbitfish are herbivores. And they eat the turf algae and macroalgae that grows on the reef. In addition to that, you have parrotfish, which have these parrot-like beaks, as you can see here. And what they do is they scrape off the turf algae that grows on dead coral, or they bite off chunks of dead coral along with the calcium carbonate, and then they crush it in their gut and digest the algae. But because they're eating so much calcium carbonate, they crush it in their gut and poop out lots of sand. And in this way, they actually play a really important role in sediment production, where in fact up to 80% of all sand on the beaches of Lakshadweep is probably parrotfish poop. I have a couple of videos. This is a video of how parrotfish feed. Where they go and take bites off of the coral substrate. This is a video of sediment production by parrotfish. So all of these herbivores play a really important role in the reef ecosystem, especially because without them, the reef would be completely dominated by algae, which occupy space on the reef and don't let coral recruits or juvenile coral to settle down. And so by clearing the reef of this algae, it allows coral recruits to settle down and grow as this one here is growing. Although and needless to say, all the fish at the bottom of the food chain, the herbivores and the planktivores, are also important as food for the higher rungs of the food chain. Then we have the microinvertebrates, mostly the damsel fish, butterfly fish, and angelfish. The damselfish are the farmers of the reef. They aggressively defend small territories from other herbivores, and eventually these territories get dominated by thick turf algae. And I have a video here of a damselfish defending its territory from me. They are actually tiny fish, about just about 10 centimeters uh, long, but yeah, very bold fish. And but what these fish uh, do is not actually eat the algae. They farm this algae, and once the algae grows thick, they become food for other tiny invertebrates, often the larval stages of crustaceans or other arthropods that live in the sea. And they will go and live in the turf algae, and then the damselfish actually eat them. So if you think about it, it's kind of like the fish equivalent of raising livestock for food. The damselfish are raising these invertebrates to eat them. Then we have the butterfly fish, which get their name from their bright, vivid colors. And these fish have pointed snouts because they feed on individual coral polyps. So they'll go and take bites out of individual coral polyps. And their pointed snouts are well designed for this. Then we have the predators. This right here is a four-saddle grouper. But we have groupers. Then next slide, we have the black snapper. No, we have lionfish, which are also predators. We have black snapper. We have sharks, and we have moray eels. Most of these predators lie somewhere in the middle, while middle of the food chain, while the largest individuals of certain species, especially the groupers, sharks, and morays, become the apex predators. Sharks, especially, are not too common in these reefs anymore, which is probably due to historic fishing pressures combined with the fact that they give birth to live young, which limits the number of offspring they can have. and so they're not as fast reproducing as most other fish are. Many of these fish are also extremely well camouflaged in their habitat. For example, this stonefish right here blends in completely with the turf algae and sand. But this fish is still relatively dull colored. The fascinating part is that even in a brightly colored ecosystem, even brightly colored reef fish can be hard to spot. Here, this is an example of no, sorry, yeah, sorry. So this is in an example of that in action, where the honeycomb moray looks exactly like the coral behind it from afar, and so it serves as the perfect camouflage for it. But another way in which these organisms can camouflage is that they can mimic another more dangerous organism. And so if you could go back a couple slides, this right here is a sea cucumber, which is relatively harmless, but is actually mimicking a very poisonous sea slug. And just after that, you can see a snake eel, and all this mimics very closely a yellow-lipped sea crate, which is a very highly venomous snake. But this is actually a fish, and it's pretty harmless. But it does a good job at mimicking the snake. Then there's also a video here. And this just goes to show how amazingly these animals camouflage. Apart, next slide. So this octopus was just like perfectly camouflaged with the algae in its surroundings. Apart from camouflaging with their surroundings, fish also often change their colors to match the colors of other fish near them. So as you can see in this video, this enables them to form large mixed species shoals where 3 to 4 species of fish will all turn a similar color and move as a group. And so this makes it more difficult for predators to focus on a single individual, since none of them stand out and all of them look so similar. This group is actually a group of 4 different species, 2 surgeonfish, 1 unicorn fish, and 1 parrotfish. But they all look so similar that it's hard to tell. We don't often get to see fish except for long after they're dead, and usually on our plates. But so this often breeds stereotypes about how fish are dumb or unintelligent creatures. But this is not true at all. One example of how fish might be much smarter than they seem is the complex associations they form at cleaning stations. So this is a picture of a moray eel that is being cleaned by cleaner wrasse. Cleaner wrasse are these blue and black striped fish. Cleaner wrasse feed on the ectoparasites that go and attach on other fish. And most fish come to these cleaning stations, which is where these cleaner wrasse stay, to be cleaned of these ectoparasites. You can think of it kind of like a spa service where the fish go as customers. But for the cleaner wrasse, the best food is not really the parasites if they went in order of nutrition, if they just took bites off of the fish themselves, wrasse goes and bites a fish that is a customer, the other wrasses will chase it away and out of the cleaning station. And so this keeps all the wrasses in check and leads to a control of all the ectoparasites. Another cool point is that some fish will often change color and become paler or white when they are being cleaned, so that it becomes easier for the wrasses to spot the ectoparasites on their skin. Uh, Here we have a video. And you can see now it's white while it is being cleaned by the cleaner wrasse. As soon as it's done, changes into a black color, which is its usual color. Fish are also actually very curious creatures. In 2020, when I was collecting data on parrotfish, I came across a group of large hump-nosed unicorn fish. And these fish were so curious that they followed me for the entire dive, which lasted about 60 minutes. And they would keep coming straight towards me and then swim just over my head and then keep circling me again. There's a video of this as well. While doing my data collection, I also set up GoPros, and occasionally I would find videos like this. This is a fish called a sand perch, and it seems like it's just coming to look at its reflection in the camera lens. The reef fish in Lakshadweep are also much more fearless of humans in comparison to almost any other reef, at least the reefs that I've seen in the Andaman's or off of Karnataka. Also, even though the reefs of Lakshadweep have faced repeated mass bleaching events, the fish diversity in the Lakshadweep has remained relatively unaffected. And part of the reason for this might be the relative lack of dependence on the reef for fishing. You see, so in the islands of Lakshadweep, reef fishing is not a big endeavor. The Lakshadweep economy is run mostly on tuna. Tuna are pelagic fish and not reef fish. And they are the most fished ones. Skipjack tuna are circumtropical. That is, they have a distribution all over tropical waters. They grow quickly and have a shorter lifespan in comparison to reef predators like groupers, which may take 5 times as long to reach the same size of a tuna. And groupers, while skipjack tuna have a lifespan of about 7 to 10 years, groupers can grow up to 40 years old. So because of this targeted fishing towards mostly tuna, the reefs of Lakshadweep have remained relatively diverse. And tuna are also shoaling fish, and they feed on other smaller fish or cephalopods like squids. When they begin feeding, however, they enter a kind of feeding frenzy where they swim with their mouths open and they grab whatever they can to eat. And there's a video of this right here. Oh, yeah. And because of this style of feeding, where they go into a frenzy, this has led to a very interesting method of fishing called pole and line fishing, which is actually a very sustainable method of fishing that is used here in Lakshadweep. Here, the fishermen go out to sea on small fishing boats, and each one is armed with a long bamboo pole and with fishing line tied to it. And it has a hook at the end. But unlike normal fishing hooks, this one doesn't have a barb, so a backward facing barb. So the fish don't really get stuck, and if they want, they can release themselves from the hook as well. So the fishermen go out to sea on small fishing boats, and they search for schools of tuna. And the way they do this is they look for pods of dolphins or flocks of seabirds that are attracted by the tuna, and using them, they will locate these tuna feeding frenzies. When they spot a shoal, they create a feeding frenzy of their own by dumping a number of small bait fish uh, and into the water, such as anthias or triggerfish, and turn on a kind of sprinkler mechanism at the back end of their boat. Kaushik, you could play the video now. And this sprinkler system, along with the bait fish, disturbs the water surface and starts a tuna feeding frenzy. And once they begin feeding, the fishermen just cast their lines into the water without a bait. It's just the hook. And because the tuna grab at anything with their mouths wide open, they grab onto the hook as well. And the fishermen just flip them back over their head. And because the hooks have no backward facing barb, the tuna just fall off the hook and into the boat. This form of fishing is relatively sustainable because it has no bycatch. They they target tuna and they catch only tuna. Unlike methods such as bottom trawling, where the entire ocean floor is caught, whether or not those fish are actually valuable for the fish to the fisher. And this form of economy has made it so that fishing pressure is relatively less on the reefs of Lakshadweep, which enables a thriving reef fish community to persist. So I hope from the presentation so far, you've gotten a sense of what Lakshadweep is like. I also had a couple of just interesting videos that I thought I'd end this presentation with. Yeah, Kaushik, you could play ahead. Play. So these are spotted eagle rails that are resident in the islands of Lakshadweep. And here we have a large coral boulder. Of Diploastria. And sitting on top of it we have a hawksbill turtle. Um, that was the last slide. Am I still audible?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Kaushik, next slide. Okay, that I think that was supposed to be the last slide. So thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this virtual tour of Lakshadweep. Thank you for inviting me over. We could now go on to answer some of the questions, perhaps.
Good morning, sir. A very insightful session indeed. So we have a lot of questions from our audience. So the first question being from Vaishnavi. She asks, do bleaching of coral have any impact on the parrotfish?
So hi, Vaishnavi. Yes, bleaching of coral will have an impact on parrotfish as well as all other reef fish. So parrotfish need coral reefs in order to survive because their diet is not composed only of algae. They also feed on coral, and so they take bites out of live coral as well, which is an important part of their diet. So bleaching of corals and especially mass bleaching events can be particularly damaging to parrotfish communities as well.
Thank you for your answer, sir. The next question is from Dr. Jha. How can we preserve tribal culture, particularly biodiversity and languages of Lakshadweep?
That is a good question. So in Lakshadweep, most people here speak Jesseri, which is a dialect of, I would say it's a spoken language. It doesn't have a script of its own, but it uses the Malayalam script. And it has Arabic influence as well. So they have set up centers here in order to teach people Jesseri. But in addition to that, I'm not certain how else to conserve it. The biodiversity aspect, there are several. So as of now, Lakshadweep has still remained a relatively pristine ecosystem because of the lack of developmental pressures or the lack of tourism so far. It's not that tourism is absent, but tourism is much less compared to, say, for the islands in Andaman's, because getting permits is especially difficult and people aren't allowed to move all across the islands. It's usually a guided tour. So in that sense, Lakshadweep has been protected so far, but with developmental projects like the ones being planned in the Lagoon Villa projects, those could potentially be devastating. So if these are stopped, then Lakshadweep might still be preserved.
Thank you, sir. Our next question is from Abhinav Burman. He's asking, how long can a coral reef survive without human intervention?
Okay, so this is a bit of a hard question because it's difficult to find any place in the world now that is without human influence. Even Antarctica has some sort of human influence. you'll find plastic pieces everywhere in all parts of the globe. But coral reefs, even coral atolls, potentially could survive indefinitely unless there are always going to be catastrophic events such as cyclones or um, El Nino southern oscillation events, which heat the water to a really high temperature that cause mass bleaching events. So it's all about chance and not really sure. They could potentially survive indefinitely if their luck is great.
Thank you, sir. Our next question is from Akanksha. Do corals have a certain lifespan?
Um, so some of the oldest coral that are alive right now, at least in the Lakshadweep, are about 2,000 to 3,000 years old. Yeah, and that I would assume is about the maximum that it could go. After that, we don't usually find coral that are older than that. But I'm not sure if this is because they are dying out or because if they're dying because of some calamity or by chance.
Thank you, sir. Our next question is from Vinita Kashyap. In artificial aquariums, how is the life of reef fishes affected as the imitation of natural system is not possible?
So in what I've seen so far in artificial aquarium, they do use seawater and they have mechanisms that stimulate wave production. So it creates artificial waves in the water, and they also add an aeration device to keep the water oxygenated, and this is usually good enough for the fish to survive. Um, Depending on which fish it is, it may be harder or easier to keep. Like for example, if you want to keep parrotfish, then you need to be able to grow coral within your tank, and you need to be able to grow the particular algae that it eats, and so that can be more difficult. But there is a considerable amount of research that is being done on uh, anemone fish, which are a type of damsel fish, and those are very popular with the reef fish trade. So there is some research being done about how to keep them alive in these tanks, and they are being bred pretty successfully in tanks.
Thank you for your answer, sir.
Yeah.
Our next question is from Sharina Joshi. If there will be construction, will Lakshwadeep survive? How can we preserve the sustainable fishing practices of the people and the ecosystem itself?
Okay. So in Lakshadweep, the economy is mostly based on tuna and coconut production. But the next big thing is our government jobs. And if if the people don't have enough jobs, they also tend to go start reef fishing because that's becoming an increasing, like as of late, since 2010, reef fishing has slowly started becoming more popular, and motherboards from Kerala and Karnataka uh, come to the Lakshadweep and buy reef fish from the fishermen here. It's not as profitable as tuna as of now, and so if people just get alternate sources of income, then reef fishing would not become as big of a problem, and the sustainable fishing practices of tuna fishing will keep continuing. This would also definitely be very beneficial to the ecosystem itself. And as for whether construction, if there is construction, will Lakshadweep survive? So the problem with the construction in the lagoons that is being planned right now is that the lagoons are really important places for uh, each atoll, because the lagoons provide spaces for juvenile fish to breed and then return to the outer reef. They also provide spaces for the lagoons also get much warmer than the outer reef. So only heat resistant corals can potentially grow in these warmer waters. So if just the presence of a lagoon gives a kind of insurance site where even if there's a mass bleaching event, the lagoon, the coral in the lagoon can repopulate the outer reef. But if there's construction in the lagoon, then there's a lot of that habitat will go, and the entire island is dependent on coral. So if the coral can't produce enough calcium carbonate and can't grow enough, the island won't survive.
Thank you, sir. Our next question is from Vinita Kashyap. Are fishes associated with reefs more nutritious, or what is the significance of importance of reef with fishes other than symbiotic association?
Sorry, I couldn't get that question.
Okay, so
Could
I'll
you
ask the
repeat that, please?
Are fishes associated with reefs more nutritious? And what is the significance of reef with fishes other than symbiotic association?
So reefs, I mean, there are many complex associations with between reef and fish. Nutrition is one of them. Some feed on the coral itself, some feed on the algae that grows within the reef, some feed on other organisms that are dependent on the coral. And so, if the coral go, ultimately, the coral provide a base for all of the other organisms to survive. So, if the coral grow, then there would not be that base for other, like say for example, the algae to grow, or for sea urchins to grow, or sea cucumbers to be there. And so ultimately the higher food chains would have no food and would also uh, perish. So there is a quite tight interlinking between within this system.
Thank you, sir. Our next question is from Devopam. We all know that there are three main types of coral reefs. Do different types of reefs have different conservation methods? If yes, what are the challenges faced by the ecologists?
So what exactly do you mean by three different types of reefs? Is it that you mean coral atolls and fringing reefs and barrier reefs?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So most coral atolls usually face the same threat, which is like the biggest threat is global warming. So the main conservation strategy since global warming is not something that any individual person or any a small organization or even large organization can control. What the main conservation intervention that's conducted is planting corals or growing and planting corals in these reefs. And this is not a short strategy, but this is the best strategy that we have, best intervention strategy we have so far. There are other strategies where research is being done on heat-resistant corals. So some coral have zooxanthellae from the clade D, which are more heat tolerant, and so when the temperatures have to rise a lot more for them to leave the coral, and so the corals don't bleach. So there is some research being done on how to introduce these zooxanthellae into more corals so that more coral become heat resistant and can survive global warming. And there's also other research being done on how to potentially shield the coral. In Australia, they are artificially generating clouds to protect the coral from heat stress from the sun. But this I feel is yeah, there's research being done, but yeah,
Thank you for
it's
your
not
answer,
usually
sir.
different. But
Yes, our next question is from Ajita. Besides combating climate change, are there any steps that can be taken to prevent a mass bleaching even from happening?
So yeah, as I just mentioned, Australia is doing some research where they're trying, even in the face of climate change, even though climate change will be there, they are trying to create clouds over the reef, where so that the clouds reflect more sunlight, and the reefs stay cooler. This is a potential strategy, but I feel like this is a strategy where we do not know what downstream effects cloud seeding might have. It might disrupt monsoon weather patterns, or it might uh, change weather patterns across the world. And so I think this is a rather risky strategy. But apart from this, there doesn't seem to be any other way of protecting the reefs from climate change.
Thank you, sir. We have another interesting question from Naman. Does volcanic activities in remote islands of Lakshwadeep alter the ocean's salinity or pH? If yes, then does it affect the coral reefs and ultimately the population there?
This is a good question, but there are no active volcanoes in Lakshadweep anymore. I am not sure, even if there were, I am not sure how they would affect the pH and salinity there. I shall look into it and get back to you.
Thank you for your answer, sir. Shrishti is asking that what can we do as students or people living away from the shores to protect the coral reefs?
So you could join campaigns or voice your support or voice your dissent uh, against activities that are definitely not needed in such ecosystems. For example, the Lagoon Villa project is definitely not something that is necessary here. And so even from afar, we can voice our support for or voice our dissent against such initiatives, and ensure that when development is done in such areas, it's done keeping in mind the ecological fragility of these spaces.
Thank you for your valuable input, sir. Our next question is from Ariba. Does El Nino events or sudden increase in temperature in ocean also affect the large tracts of coral?
Yes, yes. El Nino events definitely do, and they are usually what cause these mass bleaching events. But El Nino events used to be much more rare, and with climate change, they are becoming increasingly more common. So El Nino events, for example, before 1998, the last El Nino event was more than 20 years ago. And since then, there has been one in 2010, and then one in 2014, and then another in 2016. So these have been just becoming increasingly more common, and more mass bleaching events have been happening all across the world.
Thank you for patiently answering all our questions, sir, and thank you for such a beautiful session.
It's
Thank you.
Wenzel. I know that you have pre-scheduled commitments. Can we mail you the questions to you and Kaushik so that our students get their answers?
Hello.
Kaushik,
Yeah,
sorry, I just got disconnected for a second.
am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
The preoccupied pre-scheduled commitments of Mr. Wenzel Pinto. It's that all cannot be answered. So, can our students write you? Prashant, could you please do one thing? Click captions of the chat box and we'll mail the questions to Kaushik and Wenzel
Sure, ma'am.
so that our students get the answer.
Yeah, we'll be happy to answer all your questions via email, and please feel free to contact us. And we are slightly in short of time, that's why we couldn't take more. So, yeah, thanks everyone.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kaushik. I have no words to express the was the visuals of diverse corals and fishes. The talk was about the coral ecosystem. Thank you, Wenzel, for answering questions. And please, Kaushik, accept our thanks for the great presentation, and we are looking forward to hear more such presentation from you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure being here. I'm sure we also enjoyed a lot.
It was really
while giving, yeah, like to see an audience that big and give a presentation. It's amazing. And thanks for inviting us.
Yeah.
Do feel free to write to us.
Thank you.
And yeah.
We'll be happy to answer.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, because the sight of coral reefs had such beautiful species of fish, and it was an ecstasy. I must say, dear students, it was an ecstasy, and what a treat to our eyes. It was amazing experience, just amazing, simply superb, and simply a stunning experience. Thank you for this experience, both the boys. And especially the real-time experience, the diving and all, everything, and the videos you showed was just superb. Thank you so much. I think Kamal sir would definitely have something special to say on this presentation. Kamal sir, please, if you could just say a few lines, because
thank you for such a mesmerizing session. This is the most beautiful ecosystem could be presented. It was just mesmerizing. It is just stunning, wonderful. And in fact, I could relate some of my experience of Andaman when I was snorkeling or seafloor walking. What a beautiful, and it was so beautifully presented, explained, and answered. It was such a widely participated session. And I know many of the students, there was no end of the questions. Lovely. So all my thanks to the speakers, Mr. Wenzel and Mr. Kaushik, and organizers, all the compliments for organizing such a wonderful, Dr. Sandhya, Dr. Moses, Dr. Amit, Dr. Manisha, wonderful. And I could see many of my senior colleagues were there. So again, I welcome Dr. Ranjana Saxena, Dr. Rita Rath, Dr. Varsha Goel, Dr. Sadhana, so many participants. It's wonderful session. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. All our senior teachers for taking out your precious time and joining here with us. It was really like we were honored with your presence. Thank you so very much. Thank you.
Okay, so Wenzel has to leave. He came on an island. He has to book his boat tickets now. So that's why we are in a rush. So Wenzel is leaving now. But yeah, so thanks Wenzel for doing this. And he has been able to do this in a very short notice, and it's been amazing. So thanks Wenz for presenting this to us.
But Kaushik, I'll be troubling you sometime for a vacation at Lakshadweep.
Probably Wenzel will be the better coordinator, but I can communicate.
I was just reading through about the Lakshadweep, and I really wish to visit that place. And but trust me, I won't be causing any harm to the ecosystem.
We won't let you, sir. We won't let you.
Kaushik, I was there in Andaman. There was a Indira Gandhi Marine National Park. And yeah, though they have developed, because development, we cannot leave. We need to develop, and it should be sustainable development. So in the Indira Gandhi National Park, they really did something very thing, like you were transported by some local ferries. You are not allowed to carry anything with you except water bottles And water bottles also, they give you the Milton water bottles at a very, very high price. So you cannot afford even to leave the Milton bottle. They charge probably 500 rupees or so. You can put your water in those Milton bottles. You can carry only that thing. And there are only one or two these stalls where they cook some fishes and all as a food. So that's all. And at the same time, because the coral reefs are very, very sensitive and susceptible, they stop the ferry in between. And after that, you are allowed to travel only in the boats with the bottom glass boats. So you can even enjoy the marine life there. So I don't know, even Lakshadweep is less exploited. So, and that is good. That is good. I think the tourism will also be very, very less because you have to take a permit also to visit that place. And I don't know, because majority of us visit a place just to flaunt that I've been to that place or this place. We hardly have any interest in the ecosystem or the marine life or like this. And in that way, I think Lakshadweep is not very much developed with not many facilities for the tourists. And that is good to conserve the ecosystem. So that's good. And thank you.
Thanks, Wenzel. Thank you, sir. And it was a great pleasure.
Vote of thanks would be given by Dr. Moses. I think Dr. Moses.
Wenzel, are you still there?
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess Wenzel has left us, and he's been.
That's quite unfortunate.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Okay, I'll communicate.
Great. At the very onset, I really have to congratulate our speaker of the program, especially Wenzel Pinto, and our very own Kaushik Sarkar for beautifully organizing this virtual field trip and making it no less than a real-time field trip experience for us. I would further like to add that this program has been a jackpot bonus in the regard that, not only the curricular syllabi of the first year honor students have been met, but we have been enriched with the knowledge of marine ecosystem, which we are devoid of due to the geographical vicinity of our location, which we all very know. Secondly, every year, the Department of Zoology organizes an annual excursion or a study tour, especially to the southern part of our country. But, this has been disabled due to coronavirus for a couple of years now. But I think with a virtual field trip like this one, seriously, we are really, really blessed. And I would really like to say thank you so much for that. For all the aforementioned reasons, and most importantly, your generosity in availing yourself for us in spite of a busy schedule, the Department of Zoology, Desh Bandhu College, would like to say thank you, Wenzel. Thank you, Kaushik. We really can't say, in words enough to say thank you. But at the same time, we'll further like to look forward to have you in our midst. So thank you. I would like to take this opportunity to say a big thank you to our principal, Professor Rajiv Agarwal, our Vice Principal, Dr. Kamal Gupta, Deputy Star College Scheme Coordinator, Dr. Indra Singh, IQAC Coordinator, Dr. Aditya Saxena, and our teacher in charge, Dr. Manisha Senga, for the constant support and guidance. My deep appreciation for the technical team led by Dr. Monica Bajaj. Special thanks to Professor Varsha Pavija, our social media champion, and to all the faculties of the college who have helped in making this program see the light of the day. Special thanks to student volunteers, especially Soham Datta, Soumya, Tristan Sen, and all the zoology honors students for the contribution in the program. All right. Lastly, but not the least, I would like to say a big thank you to all the participants, including faculty members and students from Desh Bandhu College and various other institutions that are present here today. This program would not have been a success without your presence and participation. Thank you, one and all. I believe, and I strongly believe that this must have been a very good learning experience and a very good, relaxing moment for all of us. Lastly, it would be incomplete if I fail to acknowledge the hard work of my fellow colleague, Dr. Sandhya and Dr. Amit, and all the faculty members of Zoology Department in making this program a huge success. So once again, on behalf of the organizing committee, thank you, one and all. Namaste. Thank you. Please convey my special thanks to Wenzel, Kaushik,
Absolutely.
and thank you so much too. Over to you, Sandhya.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, now it's time for us to say goodbye to our dear alumnus, brilliant alumnus, Kaushik Sarkar. And thank you, Kaushik. You always help us in this virtual field visit organization. Thank you so
No,
much. God bless.
it's actually a pleasure to actually show us what kind of work we do. It's so most of our work remains within our wildlife circle, but it's amazing when we get to share our stuff with the young minds, and probably even initiate some of the new marine biologists who might be sitting in that very room at the moment. Who knows? So yeah, it's nice to share our experience with us. It's been very exciting. We are off our presentation for a while, but still there are 149 participants right here. So it's amazing to see them numbers here.
We never wanted to go away. We never wanted, but you are short of time. So,
Yeah,
and it's a Saturday, we are blessed, but we just never wanted you to switch off your presentation.
Yeah, so yeah, the presentations can actually go very long, but yeah, it was a bit of time constraint. Also, like there were other scheduled dates which we couldn't access to probably, and Wenzel was in Lakshadweep, so even he couldn't stay for longer bit. So there were a lot of issues. There were network issues in Lakshadweep. He only gets internet at night, so we would sit together in the night and do this presentation together. And yeah, so most of our work happened after 11. So that was happening. Then in the morning, I went to a scuba diving center to find someone who has a Wi-Fi. So he got there, he joined the presentation, and from there, and I was here as a backup ecologist just in case he's not able to join in. So yeah, so all these things we tried to do, and it's been amazing there. Thanks, Dr. Sandhya, for reaching out to us, and it's been very nice. And let's see, hopefully in future we'll do more ecosystems, more places. Yeah, that's it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Please.
So can we have a photo? Can we have a pic? Please, can we all switch on our cameras? Please, it's a request. And we can take a wider view from the laptop. Is it possible, Dr. Sandhya? Can we all in the department as well as students, as many as students, just for a second, can we just switch on our cameras and just say cheese? I'll just take a few, but from the laptop, please tell anybody to take a click.
Yes,
Sandhya?
ma'am, it will be done.
Yeah, you can change the panel.
Any of the students can do that.
I guess the host has to change the panel view, and then probably we can take one.
Okay, have we taken?
Done, ma'am.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again. We'll meet again.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Kamal sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kamal sir.
Thank you, Kamal sir.
Thank you, everyone.
पूरे
Thank you,
time
everyone.
आप यहीं थे, and
No, I was
you are
there.
always so busy. Still, पूरे time आप थे.
It was such a wonderful that I was not allowed to go even I wish.
Seriously, sir. Seriously. I was posting on the staff council group, so I was so busy doing all this and taking screenshots. I missed some of them, so I will see the presentation again because I missed some part of it in between. So it was wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you everybody for joining us here today.
Thank you, Dr. Jha. You are always I know you attend most
sir.
of the zoology functions and you like participate in all the events. Very much.
Sir, so Kamal hai, sir. Like he's such a science enthusiast. I can't believe. Thank you, sir. आपके लिए तो अभी मैं group पे डाल रही हूँ. Thank you for your presence.
Dr. Sharina was there.
Dr. Sharina,
yes. Kaushik in this group. It was not only zoology. Like Dr. SM Jha is from history. Dr. Sharina is from English. Then like they were from all the departments, and they were so excited and actively participated in such event. So,
yeah, I was very glad Dr. Jha asked that particular question.
Yeah.
Because also we have been also working on those things in Northeast and how it goes about. But it was a brilliant question considering the island communities and all. And thanks for asking that question. And it was good to have you here, sir.
Thank you, sir.
It was a privilege, sir. It was a privilege.
Okay, I think still it's all over and still
108. Oh my God, nobody wants to go.
no one willing is willing to go. In fact,
Nobody is willing to go.
So, thank you.
Oh my God.
Okay, I think we can ask the host to end the meeting.
Yes, we can. That's all.
Host, please end the meeting. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Share
much.
the YouTube link, please, for this presentation.
Yes, I will do that.
Shazad?
Thank you, Jha sir. Thank you, Kamal sir. Thank you,
Thank you
Manish.
so much, Jha sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. अभी तो मैं ग्रुप पे आपको थैंक्स बोलूंगी.